Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. NAJ president to apply pressure on government to improve nurses' salary. Junior doctors rehired to help fight against COVID-19. And later in sports, 10 Jamaicans slated for Diamond League meet in Switzerland this afternoon. I'm Shane Masters. Here are the details. Hospitalizations due to COVID-19 have hit another record. 705 people have been admitted with the respiratory virus. 58 are critically ill. This is up from 664 on Tuesday. Meanwhile, the total number of active cases is at 14,528. The island's COVID-19 positivity rate now stands at 41.3%. The country recorded 463 new cases of the coronavirus from 1,723 tests. The total case count is 64,294. And the virus also claimed 22 more lives for the period May 22 to August 24, increasing the death toll to 1,453. President of the Nurses Association of Jamaica, Patsy Edwards-Henry, says the association will be putting pressure on the government if their needs are not met. The NAJ has asked its members to return to work today as discussions continue with the government. Shamala Pulen reports.
On Wednesday, a number of nurses called in sick, even as hospitals across the island continue to burst at the seams dealing with COVID-19 cases.
Nurses are frustrated. Nurses feel unappreciated, unrecognized. There are no areas in the hospital for nurses to rest. There is nowhere for them to take a break. The attention that nurses feel that they should be getting, they are not getting it. And on top of that, the utterances that were made by the Prime Minister really angered the nurses.
But speaking on Primetime News Wednesday, Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton said he and his team from the Ministry of Health met with the nurses to talk about the issues affecting them.
I reassured them that there needed to be clarity because the Prime Minister really in his statement did not mention nurses or doctors. I've listened back to the tape. I was there. He spoke to a process of triaging for attention of persons who need help in the healthcare system and a doctor on duty making the call. The truth is that the Prime Minister and by extension the government is very sympathetic to the conditions and the challenges of our nurses and doctors.
President of the Nurses Association of Jamaica, Patsy Edwards-Henry, says since that meeting, another one was called with her members, and they have agreed to return to work until the issues are ironed out, a problem they have been having with the government for years. She says this time around, they will be adding more pressure on the government.
I understand that there is something out where nurses are asking for 30%. These are young nurses, and if we have a proposal and our proposal is asking for way more than 30%, as usual, we do not discuss our proposal before we get to the ministry in public, but there are a number of things that the nurses are asking for that are in the proposal. We are just waiting for the Minister of Finance to call us.
Shamala Pulen, TVJ News.
Meanwhile, as the government continues the fight against COVID-19, Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton is reporting that all junior doctors which were laid off earlier this year are now back on the job. Details in this report. An impassioned plea from President of the Jamaica Medical Doctors Association, JMDA, Dr. Midday Fitzhenley, has seemingly bore fruit. In June of this year, a number of doctors were released after their contracts ended. However, with a rapid increase in COVID-19 cases and daily increases in hospitalizations, the JMDA had issued a number of calls for the government to rehire the doctors. Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton, speaking last evening on Radio Jamaica's Beyond the Headlines, said all the doctors whose contracts were not renewed at the end of June have been rehired. He says it is part of efforts to boost numbers to deal with the COVID-19 surge and ease the pressure on health workers.
You will recall we had an issue with doctors who we did not rehire after they've completed their initial apprenticeship, if you will, period. All of those have been brought back into the system and deployed. And we really are trying. And while I understand the challenges they face and empathize, it really is a matter of just the availability of the resources, the personnel. And that is something that we have to build on over time.
Dr. Tufton says the ministry has also been receiving responses to its drive to recruit retired and other health personnel.
We are now assessing the expressions of interest since it was put out. There are a few that we have had. We're looking at the nurses in the hotels who would normally provide care. We're looking at the nurses in the school system, 100 and odd of those who would normally provide care in the school. So we really are reaching for as many healthcare professionals as we can, and then trying to deploy them where necessary to bolster or to complement the existing establishment, which, as we all agree, is significantly stressed at this point in time.
The vaccination drive in Yala and Thomas hit a snag earlier this week as the number of people who gathered for the Pfizer vaccine was more than the location could hold. The vaccination site was changed on Wednesday after chaos reigned at the previous location, the health center, on Tuesday. Some 300 persons had to be turned away without being vaccinated. On Wednesday, health officials resumed vaccination at the Yalis Baptist Church Hall, which can accommodate over 200 more people. Only persons for the first dose of the Pfizer vaccine were attended to, but more than 350 jabs were administered. Scores of students were among those who were given the first dose. The Education Ministry plans to prioritize vaccinated students for face-to-face classes when school reopens in September. A flash flood warning remains in effect for low-lying and flood-prone areas of south, central, and eastern parishes until 5 o'clock this afternoon. This is due to heavy rains being produced over Jamaica by a tropical wave. The Met Service says flash flooding has been observed in some areas. The tropical wave is moving across Jamaica and will develop into a broad area of low pressure southwest of the island today. It is forecast to linger until early Saturday. The Met Service says there will be thunderstorms and strong gusty winds. And heavy rains resulted in flooded roads in the corporate area this morning. Communications manager at the National Works Agency, NWA, Stephen Shaw, provided an update.
First thing is the Gorge in St. Catherine is closed. The floodwaters have reached dangerous levels, and so we're advising persons not to venture there. It is closed. Elsewhere in St. Catherine, the road from Tamarind Farm to Nago Head, that one is also reported to be flooded. The Dunby Holden Road, we have had reports of flooding there.
He also noted that Wees Road in Bull Bay, St. Andrew has been significantly impacted with an overflowing gully. Residents of Land Settlement in Paisley Gardens, Portland, are pleading with their political representative to help them resolve a list of issues plaguing their community. They say lives are at risk and livelihoods are at stake. Sandra Williams has their story.
The past few years have been rough for residents of Land Settlement in Paisley Gardens, Portland. They say life in the community is becoming more unbearable, especially with a growing list of challenges. Of the issues, two have become more dominant since the start of the year: no street lights and predial larceny. The residents say the lack of street lights has resulted in an upsurge in rape in the community.
Recently, we have an incident of rape. I myself got run down too in this area going on my own journey, which could have been rape. Another child also got run down by person.
One night I've been coming home, and when I look, I just see this guy start to back me up, and I said, "What you doing?" And he must hold me up, and I have my bag and stuff, and I have to say, "My husband coming, he's up the road, he's coming." And he said, "Girl, you're lucky that the next time I buck you and next dark side, it's not going to be." And I was so traumatized.
While they escaped harm, a woman who we will call Mary says her daughter was not so lucky. Mary says her daughter was abducted while she was on her way home one evening. An alarm was raised and members of the community along with the police launched a search. Mary's daughter was later found in a nearby gully.
We took her away, tie up her mouth, have knife her throat. Our auntie the upper road call her When the auntie them a call her, she down there, she hear and she can't answer because the man have the knife for her throat.
It's understood that the perpetrator was subsequently caught by the police. However, the residents are still uneasy.
When it's not rapists, pray the Lord say, them pick your ackee, them pick off your coconut, then everything then do. And you can't, there's nothing you can do. Because some of them will tell us, say, chop you in your face, you know.
Yesterday, in a midday, because I tie them out, I go back and look on them right upside my gate. And after one, I go around the road. And which part I go through the shortcut, a spirit wheel me back and say, walk down this one, go around, go look on the goat them. When I go around that empty spot, the whole 6 of them gone.
They say reporting Pradial larceny to the police is no use.
Me call out a station yesterday 5 times and nobody pick up the phone.
Other challenges plaguing the community, according to the residents, are lack of electricity, water, proper drainage, and poor road condition.
It can't work, so it can't work like that. We need help up here because none dog, no live up here, no squatters, no live up here. We are pay taxes for we land up here.
Mr. Vaz, you came here, you did a meeting with us. You are aware of the situations. We need you.
TVJ News made several attempts to contact Member of Parliament for Eastern Portland, Anne-Marie Vaz, but was unsuccessful. When contacted, Head of Operations for Portland Police, DSP Troyville Horton, confirmed that a man has been charged for 2 counts of rape. However, he added that the phone lines for the police are fully operational. Sandy Williams, TVJ News.
And it's time for a break here on the Midday News. Stay with us. More stories when we return. Welcome back to the Midday News. A full assessment of a fire at Jamaica will be done in the coming days. Now, Hong Kong-based Noble Group Holdings, which partners with the Jamaican government in the Jamaica joint venture, said the fire broke out in the facility that produces power, compressed air, and steam for alumina refining operations. The Jamaica plant can produce up to 1.4 million tons of alumina per year, which is refined from bauxite. Sunday's fire has had an impact on global aluminum prices. The cost has hit a 6-month high in light of fears of tighter supply. For the latest in the economy, here's Codian Barrett with the Business Minute.
In business news, over 10,000 farmers were affected during last week's passage of Tropical Storm Grace. During a media briefing on Wednesday, Agriculture Minister Floyd Green said an estimated $700 million in losses have been reported based on preliminary figures. He noted that plantain and banana farmers were the hardest hit.
The ministry will be providing an immediate support of $50 million through the Banana Board to help our banana and plantain farmers recover immediately. We know that this may not be the full total that is required. Again, when we look at the figures, we're going in the region of about 300 million in terms of the loss to the sector.
In the meantime, he's urging farmers and fisher folk to get weather insurance. And in business internationally, the Bank of Korea raised its base interest rate from 0.5% to 0.75% on Thursday. It was its first hike in 3 years and the first by a major Asian central bank in the wake of COVID-19. The move is aimed at helping curb the country's household debt and home prices, which soared in recent months.
Now for the top regional and international stories. In the region, the National Insurance Scheme, NIS in Grenada, says it will provide assistance to persons placed in isolation, quarantine, or diagnosed with the coronavirus COVID-19 nearly 8 months after the virus was declared a pandemic by the World Health Organization. NIS Director Dorset Cromwell said that a significant number of health workers have been inquiring about their right for compensation when they are requested to remain in isolation or are tested positive for the virus. He said that the NIS had taken a closer look at the regulations and realized that individuals who are affected by an infectious disease are entitled to receive sickness benefits. The Trinidad and Tobago government Wednesday defended its decision to seek a further 3-month extension of the state of emergency that has been in place since May this year. It said the extension was necessary to maintain the gains made in the efforts to curb the spread of the virus. Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley, in tabling the motion to extend the SOE, said his administration would continue to be guided by the medical and scientific community. In news overseas, an explosion was reported outside the Hamid Karzai International Airport on Thursday, according to 2 U.S. officials. One official said there are injuries among Afghans, but there is no information yet on any U.S. casualties. Pentagon spokesperson John Kirby confirmed that there was an explosion outside of. And the Colombian Governor Carlos Caicedo, governor of Magdalena, fled the country after finding out he was the target of a potential assassination plot. Authorities say a, quote, highly reliable source, end quote, informed them of the plan. And that's it for the top regional and international stories. We head to a quick break. When we come back, we'll have your midday sports report. Simon Preston is standing by.
Welcome back. It's now time for Midday Sports. I'm Simon Preston. Two-time double Olympic sprint champion Elaine Thompson-Herah headlines a list of 10 Jamaicans slated to compete at the Lausanne Diamond League meet this afternoon. Thompson-Herah, who produced a world-leading 10.54 seconds in Oregon on the weekend, will now be aiming at the 10.49 world record in the 100 metres. Thompson-Herah will be joined by countrywomen Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price and Sharika Jackson in the Blue Ribbon event at 2:07. Candice McLeod will be the first Jamaican in action at 1:03 in the women's 400 metres. At 1:40, Olympic champion Hansel Parchment and Olympic bronze medalist Ronald Levy will compete in the men's 110-metre hurdles. 5 minutes later, Kimberly Williams and Shanika Ricketts will cut the sand in the women's triple jump. Leah Nugent and Genevieve Russell will be the last Jamaicans in action in the women's 400-metre hurdles at 2:18. To cricket we go now, as the Guyana Amazon Warriors were restricted to 142 for 7 off their 20 overs in match 1 of the 2021 Caribbean Premier League against the Trinbago Knight Riders at the Warner Park Sports Complex. Shimron Hetmaya top scored with 54, while Jamaican Odine Smith added 24. Another Jamaican in Brandon King added 9. Sunil Narayan and Akil Hussain took 2 wickets each for the Knight Riders. At sports time, the Knight Riders had reached 90 for 7. CPL action continues this evening at 6 o'clock as the Barbados Royals battles the St. Kitts and Nevis Patriots. The Jamaica Talawas will face the St. Lucia Zouks in their first game of the tournament on Friday. To football we go now, as the draw for the group stages of the 2021-2022 Champions League has commenced in Turkey. Defending champions Chelsea have been drawn in Group H and have been joined by Juventus and Zenit St. Petersburg so far. Last season's runners-up Manchester City are in Group A alongside PSG and RB Leipzig. Manchester United will have a repeat of the UEFA Europa League final as they will face Villarreal in Group F action. Group D so far comprises Real Madrid, Inter Milan and Shakhtar Donetsk, while Group E has Barcelona, Benfica and Bayern Munich. The group stages of the UEFA Champions League are slated to kick off on September 14. And finally this afternoon, Pep Guardiola has said that he will leave Manchester City when his contract expires in 2023. The 50-year-old, who joined City in 2016, plans to have a break after 7 years at the helm of the Premier League club. Guardiola has won 3 Premier League titles, 1 FA Cup and 4 League Cups in charge of Manchester City. The Spaniard is hoping to be the coach of a national team after his time at City. And that is it for your Midday Sports Report. I'm Simon Preston. O'Shane, it is over to you.
Thanks, Simon. And that's the Midday News. I'm O'Shane Masters. Join us at 7 for primetime news. On behalf of the news, sports and production teams, good afternoon.